So, while we are here, waiting for this video to get the checks validated to publish the video on YouTube, let's dive into a commentary that we made yesterday. Oh, actually, it's done now. All right, publish at 2:54 p.m. That looks like a done deal. Thank you very much. We don't need to have these tabs open anymore. But yesterday, let's just refresh the page over here so that things get shoved down a little bit properly. There you go. Yesterday, we made this video talking about how former NHL defenseman James Wisniewski called out Evan Bouchard and the Edmonton Oilers. Essentially, Wisniewski went out there onto the Empty Netters podcast and talked some smack about the contract that Bouchard signed. Not on Bouchard as a player. Wisniewski says in the commentary, yeah, he's like a better player than I ever was. He's a good guy, good player. But $10.5 million is pretty steep. But now, the punches keep coming because we are sticking into Western Canada and talking about yet another defenseman on this side of the country. Take a look at the episode that Wisniewski was on with the Empty Netters show. You could go out there and see the title. Is Quinn Hughes tough enough to win a title? Empty Netters podcast with James Wisniewski, episode 217. Even the thumbnails, if you go over and look at this, is Quinn Hughes tough enough, to win the title? This was the thumbnail that they used. James Wisniewski could run your power play, but the first thumbnail, this is what they had before. You need Big D to win. Now, I love the euphemism there. You need some Big D, folks. That's all you need. Big D. You could win with Big D. But let's dive into an article that actually has the comments so we don't have to rip video from the Empty Netters show. It'll be linked in the description if you want to go out there and listen to the podcast yourself. It's an hour and a half. It's a good listen. But this article will also be linked in the description too. Tyler Ball published this on HockeyLatest.com. Former NHL defenseman James Wisniewski questions Quinn Hughes' ability to lead the Vancouver Canucks to a Stanley Cup. Let's scroll down and read this over here. During an appearance on the Empty Netters podcast, Wisniewski claimed that defensemen like Quinn Hughes do not have the skill set to win the Stanley Cup as a team's best defenseman. Wisniewski believes that a Stanley Cup contending level team needs a player similar to Zdeno Chara instead of a Quinn Hughes type. If you want my personal opinion, I don't think you win a cup with that man. Dude, this kid is unbelievable. He's way better than me. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying as an all-around game, as a winner, that's not your Zdeno Chara, right? And this is interesting. Not necessarily something I thought I'd be hearing in the year of 2025. Quinn Hughes is a player who just came off of a Norris-nominated season, despite missing all the time that he did. This was a guy who, for the first half of the year and shortly before he got injured, was playing at an absurd level. This guy was a man on a mission, probably the most effective defenseman season a Vancouver Canuck has ever had, and a season that Thomas Drance on Sportsnet 650 was talking about belongs in the same category as some of the best Canuck seasons we have ever seen out of any players. This is Luongo in the late 2000s. This is Henrik Sedin and his Art Ross winning season. This is Pavel Bure 60 goals level. Quinn Hughes going out there and dominating, controlling, producing the game like he was in 2024-2025 was unheard of out of any Vancouver Canucks defenseman, let alone like any Vancouver Canucks player. Yes, Henrik and Daniel Sedin were good. Pavel Bure scored the goals. Roberto Luongo kept the game in it. But that is the territory that Quinn Hughes' season last year felt like. It was so good. And the crazy part is, He didn't even, come close to winning the Norris because he missed all this time. A lot of Canucks fans generally agree that 24-25's Quinn Hughes was better than 23-24's Quinn Hughes, despite the fact that 23-24 Hughes ended up winning the Norris Trophy for the best D-man in the league. Yes, everything was clicking in Vancouver. Yes, Miller and Pettersson were scoring for the first half of the season at least. Yes, Brock Besser had a 40-goal clip and Miller had 100 points. And yes, Quinn Hughes was able to get a lot of assists off of that. But this previous campaign, the guy's goal per game went up significantly. He was still going out there and producing the lights out. He had a total understanding and control of the game unlocked from the previous season up until this one. And it was he needed to, because the Canucks stunk in 24-25. If the Canucks made the playoffs and Quinn Hughes willed them into the postseason, I'm not sure if we would have seen Cale Makar winning that Norris again. Same thing could be said about Zach Werenski and Columbus, but still, the argument remains. Quinn Hughes missed a lot of time. And now we're seeing commentary that this guy is not the guy that you win a Stanley Cup with. Okay, I'm starting to think, what are the kinds of guys that you win a Stanley Cup with? All right, Zdeno Chara, best defenseman on the Bruins in 2011. But you think about some of the other teams here. I mean, look at the other teams that won Stanley Cups and the defensemen that they had. Yes, you will have Tampa and Victor Hedman. All right, that's fine. You can say that Hedman is a big guy. He does everything. He's very, very solid. He's an immovable wall, that Victor Hedman was. But then you dive into some of the other Stanley Cup champions over the past few years, and I'm thinking all right, well, who is the guy that a lot of folks would compare Quinn Hughes to when he was breaking into the NHL? I'm thinking of multiple-time Stanley Cup champion, Chicago Blackhawks legend, Duncan Keith. Duncan Keith won a gosh darn Conn Smythe Trophy. They won multiple Stanley Cups. Keith with the Chicago Blackhawks. You also have yourselves L.A., Drew Doughty going out there doing his thing. Pittsburgh, you had Chris Letang as the best defenseman on those teams. Washington, they had John Carlson. Okay, he's a little bit bigger. Tampa Bay, all right, you could say Victor Hedman. Hey, guess what? Colorado, they got Cale Makar. I get it. Nowadays, you're looking at players in the National Hockey League. You're saying, all right, well, Vegas was a force of a team. They got Alex Pietrangelo. He's a great guy. Shea Theodore is a really good defenseman on that team. You got Florida the next season. Okay, you're winning with Aaron Ekblad and Nico Mikkola, Seth Jones, Nate Schmidt, OEL, bigger guys, tougher guys. Quinn Hughes is a smaller dude. Yes, that is true. But the way he plays the game and how he controls and dominates things, I think is a lot more akin to a Duncan Keith in Chicago than it is Nico Mikkola in Florida, for example. And as we have seen out of Duncan Keith and those Chicago teams, you can still win cups when your best defenseman is a smaller, more skilled guy. Now, Duncan Keith was a rough son of a gun in his own right. He would go out there and slash the hell out of you if you looked at him the wrong way. But aside from that, which is illegal, by the way, he would get suspended for things like that. Duncan Keith would control the blue line in a similar way. Maybe not to the same magnitude of spins like Quinn Hughes can display, but he would still do it. And so I disagree vehemently with this idea here that Quinn Hughes is not a defenseman level worthy of being able to win a Stanley Cup with the Vancouver Canucks. I can understand if you say, yeah, the Canucks are not good enough to do it around him. Yeah, I can probably agree with that. I think the Canucks need to be a lot better if they want to be in a cup contending window. But can you win a Stanley Cup with Quinn Hughes as your best defenseman? I'm going to go out there and say probably yeah. That's my opinion. What's yours? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Quinn Hughes and whether or not he is capable of leading a team to a Stanley Cup. I hope you enjoyed this for the Trash Rolls 99. And bye.